Hey guys, Rob with S&S Archery here. We've been waiting for this day for probably about 3 years. We actually have our hands on the Kowa TSN-66. In this case, it's the A for angled. Weighs 53 ounces. It's a little heavier than we kind of hoped, but it does use the same TE11WZ2 eyepiece that the 77, the 88, and the 99 use. So that's outstanding. It's also got dual focus, and this model is going to use the fluorite crystal as well. We have big hopes for this little guy, and we've got a comparison going on. It's kind of the magic hour right now. The light's starting to come down. We've got the ATX 65 here from Swarovski, the TSN-66a, the Swarovski ATS with the 25 to 50 wide angle eyepiece, and then we also have the 77. These are kind of our favorite spotting scopes here. Definitely alpha class, and mostly this is going to be for backpack hunters, and so yeah, that's right up our alley. So let's dive in and take a look at some of these. So just so you know what we're doing here, we've got an optics chart that's probably about 1,600 yards. It might be a little bit too far for us, but we're able to see the top couple of lines in some of these spotters, so it's a pretty darn good test. We've got all of the spotters set at 50x. The ATX and the two Kowas will go up to 60, but because the ATS limit is 50, we're going to keep it there. These dual focus knobs are just a huge advantage for these Kowa spotters. It really does allow you to get that perfect focus very quickly and easy. I'm just going to kind of go through each one of these. This ATX is pretty darn good. It's a little disappointing if if you're looking at the cost. It is the most expensive out of all of them. It seems like the performance with the 65mm objective just isn't near as good as the 85. For me, this purchase would be for somebody who already has an 85 or a 95 objective, but also wants the 65. That's where it makes sense. I can read the top two lines on the optics chart. The second line's a little bit fuzzy though. Now the 66, I can see the top two lines easily, and the third line, I can tell that there's letters. I can't tell what the letters are, but it just feels so much crisper than the ATX. We've been really excited about this Swarovski ATS for the last year or so. It really seems like it's received a bump in performance. And so for me and a lot of guys here, the two that are most important are this 66 and this ATS. And right now, this 66, I can read more. I'm getting better resolution out of the 66. I can read the top two lines on the 66, and I can tell that there's letters on the third line. And on this third line here, it's just a kind of a smudge. It's still kind of early in the evening, so we're not going to see a big difference in light performance. In terms of brightness, they're all pretty much, this ATX is just a little bit dimmer. The 77's definitely got an edge right now, but we've probably got another 45 minutes or an hour before we really start getting in a low light situation. So yeah, this is really exciting. I can't really say that it's a winner right now, but in this particular light, it looks very, very good. We're going to have a few guys come up and just get their impressions. That way we're not just looking through one set of eyes, and we'll see what other guys think. And then when it gets a little bit darker and we're in that low light, we'll do the same thing again and wrap things up. Really excited about this. We've been waiting for this spotter for a very long time. And I'm really excited that we're able to get our hands on it first. So what a great day.
These are all set to 50?
Yep.
Rob, I don't see any fuzziness out of the 66. Like, it looks really good to me. I can certainly get better resolution than the ATX. Like, I can't. I can't pick up any individual lines with the ATX. And then with this 66, I can't read the lines, but I can see spacing and the letters all the way down to the bottom. No question. I can read the top two, maybe third line, but I can see individual line spacing and letters between the rest. 66 is just slightly brighter than the ATS 65. But this is still really good. And 77 is excellent. Yeah. I think the 66 is the best one in there. Size, cost, weight, performance, there.
So one of the things I really like about this scope is if you have like multiple needs, right? If you're doing a bunch of truck hunting as well as some backpack hunting, the ability to change out the objectives is huge. Whether you're using the 115 or the 95 when you're truck hunting, and then packing a 65 for backpacking, it is kind of a really trick system for having a lot of options. But for the weight, I just don't know that it's worth it. Especially compared to, I don't know if they actually changed anything, but the newer ATS seems really in line, if not maybe even a little bit clearer to me with the 65mm objective. So if you don't need that functionality, I don't know that this scope's probably worth the weight or the increased price, but the image quality is great. It's a lot heavier and a lot more expensive for basically equivalent glass. This is the new 66. For me, the Kowas just always have the most accurate color. They're just the most similar to what my naked eye sees. Like when I look at similar brush, like right in front of us versus what I'm looking out at that hillside, it looks the same through the Kowas to me. The Swaros are great. The color's really good. It almost like makes it pop a little bit more. I think I see more contrast with the Swarovskis, but for a more like natural kind of true color, I really like the Kowas. These new ATS 65s, they keep saying that nothing is different. Something is different. They're better. I still kind of prefer the color in the Kowa, but like the ATS is better than the ATX and it's significantly less expensive and lighter. I just can't get over that. I don't know if it's just different coatings or if it's improvements in the way they're manufacturing them or something, but they're an incredible value for what you get for them. You know, I've spent a lot of time behind a Kowa 77. Pretty privileged to get to borrow a lot of great glass from the shop, and I tend to keep grabbing this one over and over again. And it's this is why. It's fantastic. It's to me the same, if not even a little clearer than the 66. It's brighter. It doesn't have the fluorite crystal, but I don't know what the pricing is going to be on the 66, but that fluorite's not going to be less expensive than the 77 for sure. I just think this is hard to beat. Overall weight, value, and it's so bright. They're both really crisp. Like the images are really sharp. You know, we have that objective chart out there. I can make out individual letters. I can't tell what they are in any of them. It's just too far. It's impossible to be mad at any of these. They're all great scopes. There's no question about that, but I'd still lean heavily towards the Kowas. The ATS is fantastic for the weight too, though, and the price. Yeah, that'd be like impossible to pick. The weird thing is the most expensive one is honestly my least favorite. Like I said before, unless you have like a unique situation where you need 2 spotters, but it makes sense for you to have 1 eyepiece, I just don't see the sense in it. I'd much rather have a 77 that serves both purposes really well, or the 65, or this new 66 is really impressive. I think the 77's a little brighter as this like kind of light's starting to get a little bit dimmer here and stuff, but overall, it'd be tough not to take the 77 over and over again.
Starting right here with the Swaro. We were doing a little bit of glassing earlier today before the light started going down. And from the start, I've always had a little bit of blurriness with this one. It was always a little bit grainy on the ATX. I wasn't really a huge fan of this. To start with the 66, earlier today, I really wasn't a huge fan of it. But as Rob was just saying earlier to me, that the fluorite crystal starts getting a little bit better as the light starts to go down. I might be butchering that a little bit. I'm not an expert in optics and fluorite crystal, but I will say, as the light gets a little bit lower, the 66 definitely starts to shine. I was able to look through it a lot, and I'm really able to see the piece of paper that we have out there. I'm really able to make out a lot. Moving on to the 65, ATS 65. So earlier, like I was saying, I thought that the 65 was better than the 66. This just seemed a lot more sharper, crystal clear. And right now it seems like the 66 just beats it. I'm gonna give a little nitpick though. For me personally, I am a bit biased. My personal scope, now this isn't mine, but I have a 77 myself, and we'll get to that one in a little bit. But basing off of focus wheels, I am not a huge fan of the Swaro focus wheel. I actually personally had a 65 ATS and sold it for a 77. And when we were playing around today, I was just struggling trying to get these two dialed in and focused. Whereas with these Kowas, you're really able to just dial in and get that exact focus that you want. So I'd say right now the 66 is probably the best. And maybe that's just bias also because I own a 77, but I'm trying not to be. Yeah, that's my general consensus. I think all 4 spotters are great. With this one being the new spotting scope, it definitely shined when we first got it in the office and we put it out. When we were just comparing these two, we were a little nervous because this one was, the 65 ATS was doing a little bit better, but now its true colors are starting to shine. So anyways, overall though, I think the 77 is the best in my opinion. Yeah, it's just we're super lucky to be able to test all these high-end optics.
Excited to get behind all this glass. I've used all these scopes except for the new 66, but never have had them all side by side. I just got done kind of setting the focus for my eye, but didn't spend too much time analyzing them. So going ATX, the 66, the ATS 65, which is my personal scope, and then the 77. So the ATX, I've spent some time with. I've had mixed impressions about it, just historically. I want to bounce around a little bit to give it a take. Yeah, like I just noticed a huge difference just in these two, going from the ATX to the new 66. Again, haven't already set these. To me, the just stark contrast, honestly, between the ATX to the 66 is just picking up so much more clarity. Like I feel like I want to keep searching with the ATX and just kind of can't get it to resolve nearly to the same level. Again, I think we're asking a lot out of all these scopes for the distance that we're looking at and what we're trying to pick apart. So it's not a bad scope by any means, but definitely bouncing over here. There's a clear difference that to me, aside from, I don't even know all the specs of these, to be honest with you guys, in terms of price and weight and all those things. But if it's just a matter of these two scopes, this is a clear winner, again, without knowing all the secondary specs. spend a little bit of time on these two now. So the new 66 and then the ATS 65, which again is a scope that I've run more than any other. One thing I've noticed, like having used the Kowas in the past, especially the 77, is historically I didn't necessarily see a lot of value in the dual focus, but doing something like this is such a unique test scenario that is different from in the field hunting. And doing something like this in particular for this type of resolution at this distance, I really see the value in the dual focus. In the past, like just again using the ATS for hunting, I just like the simplicity of it, and I've never felt like I needed to get more out of it, but I can definitely refine the focus better with the Kowa system. Yeah, for me the 66 has an edge. No doubt, like it's pretty minor. The overall profile in terms of contrast and color seems pretty similar, but I just feel like I get that extra little bit of resolution out of the 66. I'm curious just to look at the 77, the 66. I definitely feel like I'm picking up a bit more light, which I obviously would expect. You know, I've considered these two scopes in the past, the ATS 65, the Kowa 77, and for me, just the weight, price, the size, the 65 was just the sweet spot for me. The 77 is a great scope for sure. Obviously, these two are going to be very competitive in terms of weight and price, and the 66 is going to weigh a little bit more and cost a bit more, but I'm definitely seeing a performance increase. Not so much so that I want to go home and sell my ATS by any means, but I think it edges it out. Again, it's so hard with comparing a bunch of great glass, and this is a unique situation. Not looking at animals, looking at a resolution chart at this distance, but it just has an edge. Like I can't just pull the same image out of this ATS that I can with Kowa 66. So to me, is it a better scope? I'd say so. Honestly, it feels like the best scope out of these four in this controlled situation.
All right, so sun's down. We're just gonna kind of go through these and look at the low light performance. Again, we're gonna start with the ATX 65, then we'll go to the TSN-66a, then the ATS 65 with the 25 to 50 eyepiece, and the 77. I'm not able to get any lines of resolution on that chart. Again, especially in this situation, that dual focus just gets you there. Not only, oh, see, I can see actually some resolution on this. I can see the top two lines now on this 66. And so, yeah, this 65 ATX is just not holding up at all. I can't honestly say that I can see a letter on that chart. Where with the 66, I can see that there's multiple lines. I can't see what the numbers are or the letters are, but I can see that there are two letters at the top and multiple lines going down below them. And on this ATS, it's very similar to the 65. I just can't see any letters. I can see that there's something on there, but if you were to ask me how many letters on the top row, I really wouldn't be able to tell you. This 77 has been my personal favorite for a long time, and it's noticeably brighter than the ATS, and it does feel brighter than the 66, and it should because it's a larger objective. But in terms of resolution, It's very close to the 66, and the 66 might be just a little bit better. You know, they're just super close to each other. And ATS is just a little bit darker, and the ATX is it's just not quite there. So, you know, my take is that the 66 is the real deal. It's unfortunately it's a couple ounces heavier than we hoped it would be. At 53 ounces, you know, there's not a huge difference between it and the 77, but it is smaller. And optically, you're not losing a whole lot off of the 77. I think the 77 is a little bit brighter, but I mean, I think because of the fluorite crystal on the resolutions chart anyway, you're able to just get a little bit more definition. So there you have it. We don't know what the price is going to be. I've talked to the Kowa rep. He seems to think it's going to be more than the 77. We'll have to wait and see what that is. But so far, this is really exciting. I can't wait to get this out in the field. And long scouting season this summer. Hopefully we can get it back in time.